Alright guys, I have been busy wiring up a harness for Space Zap Midway card rack system. Space Zap. I got the pin out here and I have used it to create this little harness that plugs into the game PCB and then into my interface. I got power here. This is for reset. This guy right here is for the reset line, and here's my reset circuit. So let's fire this thing up. This is a black and white game, so I got the black and white monitor ready to go. So let's go ahead and fire this up and see what happens. Okay, now we have our board's plugged in, and it's plugged in down here. And that is right. You see you got black and white video there. There's your black and white video and the ground. Now over here we got my power. You'll see, just go ahead and unplug that. And you got ground key. I got two greens, then your key, and then this gray wire is -5, and then reset is my purple wire, and then orange is +12, and then 2 5s. I got 2 5s. So we'll plug that in. It goes right like this. Hold on one second. Can't do this like this one-handed. Okay, power is in. My reset here is down here, my little reset circuit, and I have it set to, it's hooked up on Z80. This is a Z80 game, and it's plugged in right there. Right here it's plugged into the power supply, so that's ready to go. That'll fire up and send a reset pulse for the reset. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up, see what happens. And okay, first thing I noticed was it was shorting out the power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the 2 RAM cards, because that's probably where the short is. So let me go ahead and pop up both of the RAM cards and then see if at least the power doesn't short out. Alright, be right back. Okay, you see I popped up the 2 RAM cards, and we will turn it on and listen for that telltale, you know, that sound that the power supply makes. We'll get right down here on the power supply and monitor it. So let's go ahead and fire it up. And you see our light is green, which is good. The light is green, which means it's not shorting out. So the problem was on the RAM cards. Was it the actual RAM, or was it one of those bullet capacitors? Probably a bullet capacitor. But if we look over here at the monitor, it's just nonsense. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to cut those bullet capacitors off of these guys, pop them back in, and see if it's still shorting. I highly doubt that it's a, well, my first guess is the bullet capacitors. It could be a shorted out RAM, shorting one of the powers to ground. But first things first, let's check those bullet capacitors. Cut them right off the board, plug them back in, and see if it shorts. Okay, and I have found the culprit. Right here, there's 3 bullet caps per RAM card. And I got this set to continuity. Right here, this middle one is the culprit. See that? That one's the culprit. So let's, and that would mean that our, which voltage is that, I wonder? That's ground, so it's a positive voltage. I don't know, it's that middle one though. So let's just go ahead and cut it out. Cut it off the board. And now, no shorts. That's okay, that's connected to that. And I already checked the other RAM card and there are no shorts on the other RAM card. So that was our shorted out culprit. So let's go ahead, put these RAM cards back in the board and see what we get. Okay, RAM cards are back installed. The little bullet cap is right there. So let's go ahead and start it up. And it's doing this, which I don't know if that's my monitor or what. Huh. I think I'm going to mess around with the monitor a little bit and see if I can get this thing to sync. It looks like there's no... It looks like it's just not syncing. Let me see if I can mess around with it for a second. Well guys, I have just been seating and reseating these things. Who knows? But I've got it actually up on the screen. Space zap. And I think I had to get this monitor dialed in just perfectly, because I did an awful lot of messing around with this monitor as well. And the thing just would not sync up to this board set. But I finally got it. So the only thing really that I have found that is wrong with this thing is the bad cap on that RAM board. Obviously the RAM boards are good. Yeah, so awesome. I got a couple other boards they sent. Wants me to check those boards out. It's a pattern generator, and I think there's another CPU board there, I think. So I'll go ahead and swap those in and out and see if they work, and if they don't, then we'll mess around with those. But I finally got it up on the screen. Gosh, that was painful. Space zap. I need to hook up my this has a external amplifier for the sound, which I'm going to just use my Donkey Kong sound amp and amplify the sound. So I'm going to hook that up and let's play this thing. Okay, I have sound hooked up, and we'll go ahead and start this thing up and see if we can play a game. There's a coin. Alright. Here's fire. Second player. I can't turn right. Right does not work. You see, up, left, down, fire. Yeah, right doesn't work. Yep, no right. Alright. Well, I'm going to cut away and we'll try to figure out why this thing's right direction does not work. Okay, that orange wire right there that you see, that is right. And what I'm going to do is hold this logic probe on. That's the orange wire right there. That's right direction. So I'm in here on, that's on the right direction pin right there. And if I move right, it goes low. I'm moving right and it's going low. So that tells me that it's on the board. I've got a board problem. So I'm going to have to look at the schematic and find out what circuit involves the right direction, because it has failed. So we'll look at the schematic and figure that out. Okay, I have tracked down on the schematic. Pin 11 is right. As you see here, I'll move this over a little bit. Pin 11 is right. And if we follow that guy all the way over, it is signal 123. And 123, you see right here, goes into this guy, U19. Which U19 looks like a dual 4-line to 1-line mux, or a 153. So we're going to replace, we're just going to go ahead and replace U19. Okay, so I have done some cleanup on this game PCB. I've removed the bullet caps, if you will. I'm going to replace those. I've replaced the sockets for the ROMs. I've cleaned the ROMs. They're looking beautiful now. Shiny. I'm getting ready to replace this 153. It's actually, this is a CMOS equivalent. I'm just going to put a 153 in there. It operates at TTL level, so I don't exactly know why they used CMOS here. I got this cleaned up off of here. I'm going to put new sockets in it. I cleaned the gold contact legs here, the fingers, really good. As good as I could get them anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this guy, repopulate the sockets, put some new caps in it, and this board should be good to go. Okay, I got my game board done. Now this thing did, and I didn't film it, but before, I played the game, I messed around with the right direction, wouldn't work. I reset a couple of boards, turned it back on, and all of a sudden it wouldn't boot again. So then I went ahead and I did this board. I just put it back together and turned it on and it still wouldn't boot. So I'm going to move on to this board. This board I know, well, I don't know that the right direction works. I replaced these two. I desoldered this one on accident. So I replaced actually both of these. But this is like 10,000 times better than it was as far as connections go. So this board's good to go. I got to turn my attention to this guy. Look at this Z80. That's a silver leg Z80, which that will clean up beautifully. This thing was running, so I know that there's nothing wrong with this. It's got to be just connection issues. So I'm going to replace these 3 sockets. I'm going to wash and clean this guy up. And this guy, I'll probably clean that chip up too. 245. And I'll clean the edges. You know, I'll clean the edge good. So that'll be next, CPU board. And the good thing is the RAM and the pattern board don't have any socketed stuff on it, really. So, and I know the RAM boards are good because it was working before. So I think this board is the problem right here. We'll clean this one up, new sockets, clean the Z80 up, and I believe this thing will be good to go. Okay, yeah, what I'm doing now is I'm just going through and I'm reflowing the solder on the back of this panel. The back panel. They don't look terrible, but that doesn't mean that they're good. So we'll just go, I kind of want to go down, so start up here. It's old oxidized solder, so it doesn't really want to cooperate so well. Kind of a timing thing. You gotta be flowing solder and removing your iron at the same time to get it to not pull away. And I kind of run the iron up the pin as I'm soldering so that it cones good. You know, it makes a nice fillet instead of pulling away. Instead of the solder pulling away. I've already cleaned and reconditioned the PCBs. And after this row, I'll show you those. Okay, that's the second row, and I will show you the PCBs. Grab the camera here. RAM cards are down here. I just sprayed them with alcohol and let them dry. They're pretty much dry already, but I cleaned. Look how clean those are. You can see reflection. Both sides. Okay. I'm going to replace all of these caps. These guys right here are going bye-bye. So I got all of the boards all cleaned up. There's the CPU board drying over here, which I've got the sockets removed and I have washed it, and same treatment on the edge, nice and clean. I've got the Z80 legs cleaned, and that 245 that was in the board, those legs are good and clean now. So I'm going to finish reflowing this guy, put it back in the cage, and then we'll be ready to... I'm going to replace the caps, and I got to put sockets on the CPU board, replace all of those bullet caps, and then we'll be ready to fire back up. Alright, everything is freshened up. Got new caps on this board. Their boards are cleaned, the edges are clean. The bottom plane panel has been reflowed and cleaned inside. So now we'll put it back together. One RAM card, new caps on all the cards. Okay. I want to put the pattern generator in next, back here. Okay. Here's the CPU card, which everything's in right orientation correctly. Put this guy right here. And our ROM/game card. Everything is nice and clean. Put that in there. Okay. Now we'll plug in our power. Kind of flip this over this way. Plug in the power. Okay. That's good to go. And I'll hook up the other controls and we'll be ready to fire this thing up. Okay, all of the refurbished boards are in the cage. So we will go ahead and fire this thing up. Let's watch the screen. I have a feeling it's my reset signal, which is not quite cutting it. So let me cut away for a second and mess with that reset. Yeah, that was it. I just had to basically restart the thing. This my reset circuit obviously isn't quite what this is looking for, I think. So I just restarted it and it started up. So I'm gonna set the camera up and see if our see if this thing works with the right direction. Okay, we're gonna give this thing a try. All right. It still does not go right. This thing is a noise maker, isn't it? You can tell it's got that Gorf and Wizard of War sound to it. Pretty cool. But I got to figure out what is going on with right direction not working. So let's look into that again. Alright guys, I went and started poking around this thing with my logic probe and just following that right direction signal. And I looked at all of the signals around this. This is an I/O chip. And everything looked good, but the only thing that I was thinking could be the issue was this thing gets signals from I/O, from your input output up here, and it sends what is called multiplexed data back to the CPU. Now this customer happened to send me an extra CPU board, so I just popped this CPU board in to see maybe the problem was on this board. Turns out it's doing the same thing, no right direction. But this is a good board, which is cool. That board works. So I was like, well, it's got to be this chip. It's got to be the I/O chip, but I don't have another one, so I can't tell. And then I was like, wait a minute, I do have another one. He sent me Robbie Roto board, which has 2 I/O chips in it. So I took one of them out. This is the original one that was in this board. And I put the one from the Robbie Roto board in, and if I coin this baby up, do a start, up, down, left, right. It's the I/O chip. The I/O chip was the problem. And you always hate to see a custom chip bite the dust. But this one, unfortunately, has bit the dust. So I will use my Sharpie, and on the back side of this I'm going to put bad right here and send it back to him. That one has bit the dust. So at least we got one good set. You know, had to rob one of the customs out of the Robbie Roto. Maybe you can find one to recomplete that board. But at least we know that our set is good here. I'm going to set this camera up on the tripod here, and we'll play a little Space Zap. Play a game of it. Let's do that. Be right back. Okay, coin up. And start. Goodness gracious. Can I pause this thing? Talk about a button masher. I want 100,000. I'm gonna make it. Yes, 100,000. Oh my goodness. That's a button masher and a half, but kind of cool. 107,000 and 750. 107,750. Can you guys beat that? I know this is on main. Give it a shot. Tell me what your score is. Space Zap. Pretty darn cool. Simplistic, yet kind of addicting. Midway card rack. Alright, we got one done. We got one board set here, which is nice. And it's all cleaned up, guys. Alright, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Classic Arcade Repairs. I do appreciate it. And yeah, another one brought back from the dead. Alright guys, we'll see you on the next. Happy gaming. Ooh, that's Bob Roberts saying. Alright, well, you guys take it easy. We'll see you. Okay, about an hour into the burn-in or so, I lost a chip. This guy right here, this one, is now dead. It died. And these things usually have a heatsink on them. This is the one that died. So what I'm doing is I have a Nintendo PPU that had a heatsink on it. So I removed this from the PPU that I was not using, and I am going to clean up this chip, because this one's good. I took this out of the spare CPU board, and I put it in here and it comes up and works fine. So now this set has two bad customs, the IO and this CPU board, CPU thing, whatever it is. I'm not even exactly sure what it is, but I'm gonna scrape it with my knife here, clean it with some alcohol, and I'm going to thermal glue this heatsink onto this chip. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Be right back. Okay, and now I have the heatsink glued onto the chip, and I have moved this guy back a slot so that this will be in the first slot now. But yeah, so hopefully that'll keep this guy cool. That's supposed to have a heat sink on it anyway. So I'm gonna let this, it's got to set for about an hour anyway, just to set, cure. So I know this works. I know the board works now. I know that this chip is good, so I'm going to let this thing dry. This is just a little addendum. The thing crapped out on the burn-in. So now hopefully this will make it solid. Unfortunately, we lost a chip. So I'm going to let this sit on here and cure and be effective as a heat sink, and then I'll do the burn-in again, and hopefully this will be the end of the video. But this is good. I know it works, so I'm going to end the video right now. I just wanted to add this onto the end of it. Little problem with this chip going bad, but hopefully this heat sink will save that from ever happening again. So, all right. Thanks, guys. See you next time. And this is what it will look like. To remove this board, you might have to remove these two brackets that go across, because this sticks out pretty good. But I got it zip tied. I got the heatsink zip tied there, so it'll glue good. And we are running. That's it. Space zap. Unfortunately, we got two dead guys. But okay, good to go. See you on the next repair, guys.